Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and I want to show you something that I've been doing lately in my crochet, and I will never ever go back to the old way. So the old way, when you were doing a row and you're maybe doing a UK treble or a US double crochet, would be, some people tell you to do 3 chain. I've only ever told people to do 2, but you would do 2 chain, you would miss this stitch, and then you would go in the next, and that does make quite a nice edge. Yeah, it does. It's not too bad anyway if you've only done 2. It doesn't bulge out, but it's different, isn't it? It's not a stitch, it's thinner. But I've been doing this, and it's a game changer, to be honest with you. So here's my very last one of the row. I've got to the end of the row. So I'm going to turn my work. I'm not chaining at all. And I'm just going to go in this very first stitch, the very first one, which we normally ignore. And I'm going to insert my hook and pull up a loop. So I've got 2 on my hook, and I'm going to pull a yarn over and go through both of them. So I've done a UK double crochet or a US single. But now, if you're looking at it, you want this part here. We're going to insert our hook in that one loop only. We're not going to go through the whole stitch. We're just going to insert into that one loop. And we're going to yarn over and pull up another loop. So we've got 2 on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through them both. And now we've got a nice big fat juicy stitch at the end so that we can carry on doing our work. It is also the perfect height for our personal way of crocheting, because as many people have told you to do 3 chain, maybe they have longer stitches. People who, like me, whose stitches are not long, will probably say do 2. I always think that what it really kind of boils down to is however many times you pull through the yarn. So you pull through once, you pull through twice, means 2 chain. That's how I always worked. But now I've discovered this new way of making my first stitch. I will never ever go back. Now I will show you again when I get to the end of this row. And there is also another way that it's very, very similar, but you kind of turn back on yourself. I prefer this way. It's far less fiddly, and it makes a really nice edge. If you're wondering what yarn this is I'm using, it is the Elise Batik Bebe, it's baby, and this is a beautiful green one that I do have this in my shop, where there's a link to my shop in the description box, hobbyrocks.co.uk, and there is a promotion for this very hook that I'm using. It's free. Now when you get to the end, because I started the row with it, you've got your 2 loops there, see? Exactly. So you're not fiddling around to get in that last turning chain anymore, which is another reason I like it so much. So the other way was kind of going back on yourself, but I'm not really keen on that one. I'm going to stick with this. So you just, again, there it is, the very first stitch that you would normally ignore in 2 chain. We go into it, we don't yarn over, and we pull up, we now yarn over, now we're in, and pull up the loop. So we have 2. And we just yarn over and pull through both of those. Now remember, it's this one right here on this side. We just insert into that one loop only, yarn over and pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through both of those. So now we've got that lovely big chunky stitch that we will see the beauty of when we get to the very end of this row, because it, you know, you've got your 2 loops to go in. You're not pushing your hook to get into a tight little turning chain. And once you've done a little bit of work, you will see an absolutely beautiful straight edge that is the right height for the rest of your crochet. And I can't tell you what a game changer this is. I will use this whenever I have to do UK trebles, which are double crochet in the US, whenever I do them, that's how I am now going to work. I will never do 2 chain again at the end of a row, or even when I'm beginning my half a corner and a granny square, I will do exactly the same thing, because it's undetectable. It looks just like you've made a normal stitch, and you don't see those spindly little chains anymore. You don't struggle to get in the top one when you reach the end of your row. It is just absolutely a game changer, and I love it. So this little trick will transform your crochet. It will transform mine, that is for sure. So that's now I'm back at the end, and you can see I've got those lovely 2 loops just to pop straight into and do my stitch. Isn't that so much better, guys? Look, and you get a lovely straight edge. Obviously those I haven't done very much yet, but you can see there is no bulge in. It's just a perfect straight edge. I think this is the new way to go, and whoever come up with it, wow, I salute you. Yeah, that is brilliant. So thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. Have a little go and tell me how well you do. And I'll show you one more time as we're at the end of the row. You just turn your work, no chains, go straight into the stitch, the whole stitch at the corner, the very one that you would ignore. Pull up your loop, yarn over and pull through both. Then you go into just this front one on the left hand side, and you pull up your loop and then finish your stitch. It does look bulgy at the beginning, but it evens out. It's so much better. I really, really, really dig this one. So yeah, thank you for watching, and don't forget, have a little play with it, and tell me what you think. Personally, I think it's brilliant and a game changer. So thank you for watching. There is also a left-handed version. My left-handed versions will always link to the right-handed. I always put in a link to those. So if you need the left-handed version, in the description box you'll find a link to it. But sometimes you'll see a little thing appear up here, and that will be a link to that. So thank you, guys. I will see you on the next one. Bye for now. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Vox. Tracy here, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you the no turning chain method and a seamless granny square in one. So I've been asked to do this by a few of my subscribers, because I recently put up a video about how you can get on with your work without any turning chain, get much straighter edges, and I'll put a link up here if you want to watch that. But this one I'm going to show you how to make a granny square with which is seam free. This is the end where we have joined, so it's ever so easy, and if you're a beginner I'm sure you can still master this technique. So I'm just going to pause it for a second while I clear this away and get my bits and pieces together. Also, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Okay, so this is just some yarn that I have ready. It's exactly the same as the other square. I'm using a 4mm, no, it's a 4.5 this one. Sorry, I did have a 4mm for the other one, but I'm going to try this hook. This is one that I'm trialing. So you just need to make a slip knot, and you can do that however you normally would, and chain 4. Because we're not doing a magic knot for this, it's just a ring. So now I'm going to slip stitch into the first one and create a small ring that we're going to now work into. So this is the center of our ring. It's very small at the moment, but as we work it will get a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to insert my hook straight into there, and I'm going to work over the turning chain as well at the same time, but don't worry if you can't do that yet, that's fine. I'm going to yarn over and pull up the loop. So there we are. I'm going to do a yarn over and pull through both loops, and now I'm going to reinsert my hook into this left hand post, just that post, so just one loop. I'm going to yarn over and pull through that loop, and now I'm going to yarn over and pull through both. So that is going to be our first UK treble or US single crochet. And now I'm going to do 2 normal UK trebles and US double crochets next to it. So that's just the usual normal stitch. And this is assuming, obviously, that you know how to do these stitches. If not, I have tutorials for these stitches, and so do others. So if you want to familiarise yourself with it first. So now we've got our first 3 stitches. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to do another 3. Just like a normal kind of granny square. If I go too fast for you, if you're very new, then just pause it and catch up with me. Okay, now we're going to do another chain. So we're making segments of 3 separated by a chain. That's basically what we're doing. So I'm going to do another 3 because altogether we want 4 segments. But when we get to the last, I'm not going to do a chain. So just in case you pause it and race ahead, we don't need the chain after the next one. So if you find it gets a little tight, just pull it across, and there you can see that hole has got a lot bigger than it was in the beginning. It's only that first initial stitches where it's a little tight. Okay, so that's my last one. And if we look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 lots of 3. So now, because we didn't do didn't do chains, we make this stitch. We've now got our 2 loops at the top to go into. There's as if this was the chain, there'd be the first one, there'd be the second. But we haven't got a battle to get through a chain. We just go through the 2 loops, which I didn't do very successfully. I'm not sure I like in this hook. There we go. We go through the 2 loops and we pull up a loop as if we're going to make a slip stitch to join, but we're not. We're going to do a UK double crochet, which is a single in the US. So we're going to yarn over and pull through both of those, and that makes a little gap. You can't really see it too well yet, but once we start working into it you will. But it's the same size as the gaps between our segments. So again, we're going to do that chainless stacked, well, in the US it would be called a stacked single crochet, and in the UK it would be called a stacked double. So we're just going to go back into our hole that we've created, yarn over and pull up that loop, yarn over and pull through both of them. And now we're going to go into this left hand post again, just that one, yarn over and pull up the loop, and yarn over and pull through both of them. So that is now creating our first stitch. We're going to do our next 2, and basically what we're doing now is half of a corner. We're going to leave that one there, and we're now going to work into this space between the next segments, and we're going to do a corner. So we're going to do 3 stitches, just the same as we have been for our segment. Please excuse this hook, I'm trying it out, not impressed with it that much. 1 chain, and then we're going to do another 3 in that same space, which will make a corner. Now, a lot of people ask me why I don't turn my work. I don't like the reverse of the crochet. I don't like this side. I don't like it visible. And a lot of people have problems with it twisting, kind of having this optical illusion of twisting. That doesn't happen with me. And I think that's because I don't chain too many. And plus my stitches kind of pull at their sides. So I'll show you what I mean. As I'm going in and I'm pulling up a loop, it is pulling over because there's no chain between. So that makes it straightened out. if you understand what I mean. So I'm doing my 3, my 1 chain, and my another 3, I meant to say my other, but it came out wrong. So another 3 in the same space. And as you can see, we're now making our square. So now we go straight into this one and do the corner. This is a little bit tight, it is cupping a little bit, but I wouldn't worry about that. It does pull itself out. So I'm finishing this corner, and so then we will be right back to where we started, to our half a corner that we left just sitting there. Okay, so now we've got to complete that corner. So I'm going to do 3, but again, I'm not going to do a chain to separate the corner. Okay, so there it is. There's our first part of the stitch. There's our second part of the stitch. I'm just not going to yarn over. What am I doing? We're going to go in. Sometimes, if my work needs it, I will do that as a half treble in the UK or a half double. But this is fine with just a normal UK double or US single crochet. So I'm going to pull up my loop, and there we are. They're separating them, and I'm going to do my UK double, US single. So that has completed my little square. I'm going to do it all over again. I'm going to go back into that same space between our segments and pull up my loop, yarn over and pull through both. Now I'm going to slip my hook into that post again on the left hand side, yarn over, pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through both of them. And so that's my stitch. And now I'm going to do my half a corner just as I did in the previous round. But this time around we have a side. Now we've made our square, we have a side there. And so I'm going to just do 3 in that side, a segment of 3. No chain between the segments, as I said before. And now we're back at the corner. So in this one, I'm going to complete a whole corner. So that is the 3 stitches. If I go too fast, it might be handy to watch it first, pause it and then catch up with me. Or you can always rewind that part. So now I've done my 3. I'm doing my 1 chain and my other 3 to complete the corner. And now we're back along another side again. So that's just 3 in the side. So you need to just remember you're doing 3 in the side parts and you're doing a whole corner. So that's 3, 1 chain and 3 in the corners. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this corner, 3 in that side, this corner, 3 in that side, and then I'll catch up with you when I get to here so we can complete that corner again. So I'm going to pause the video and I want you to just repeat what we've done here, and I'll see you when I get back to the start. Okay, here I am back at this part again. So I'm going to complete my corner by going in this one with my segment of 3. If you wanted to know what the yarn this is, it is Elise Batik Baby. Okay, so now I'm back here again. There's my first part of the stitch. There's my second. The beauty of doing it this way is you've got those lovely 2 loops to just pop into. There's no struggling to get in a tight chain. So you can yarn over, pull it up, yarn over and go through both, and you've completed. So that is how we have been doing, well, I'm now doing my granny squares. Seam free, no twisting, no turning my work, and no turning chain. Okay, so in the next round we would do half a corner, 2 along the side, 2 segments of 3, then a corner, 2 segments of 3, then the corner, and we would carry on like that for however long or however big we want our granny square. This was just a small one that I did. This is also the same yarn. You can see the green is coming back in. So this is the first one I did, and just did it to show you, but you just carry on. And so where we did 1 in our side, then we kind of did 2 in our side, and every round we increased by 1. So these are our sides, so next time it would be 4 along the side. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed that. I just want to show you another little technique that I've been asked. If I were to be doing a if I was going to be doing a border, for instance, and I've got my stitch, that is all I would do. But sometimes we've actually got a corner to go into there. But say if I was going in the stitch, what I might do is 1 chain and cinch it right down, and it just finishes that stitch off and stops it from becoming like pulling over. So now I would go into that stitch, and I'm not going in the hole this time, I'm going into the stitch. Pull up my stitch and just start my border, and then when I get round I would go into the 2 chain, so the actual 2 loops, not 2 chain, the 2 loops of the first stitch to do my slip stitch, or you can do the invisible join. And the same is true if I were doing a UK half treble, which is a half double in the US. So I would again do my 1 chain and cinch it right down, because I want to see where my stitch starts and finishes, and sometimes it's a little awkward. I've made that a bit tight. It's into there, isn't it? I don't know where I am now. I think I've confused myself. Okay, so I've finished my stitch. Maybe I made it too tight. Okay, so now I'll do my chain and cinch it down, and I'm going into this stitch here. So I would do exactly the same thing. So when you're going round, because you've cinched that down, this is your first stitch with the 2 loops there, and that is what I would do all the way around if I were doing a half treble, half double border. But why do I do the chain and cinch it down? I do that because if you've not finished off the stitch completely that you're doing and you start off again, I find it kind of looks a little confusing when you get all the way around. But if you make that cinched down chain, it's not confused into a stitch because it's so small, and you can clearly see the 2 loops that you're going to go into when you get all the way around from your border. But that is exactly what I've always done that with my my UK double crochet, which is a single in the US, and I've always done it with the half treble, which is a half double in the US. But doing it this way with a UK treble, which is obviously a double crochet in the US, why do we have to have different names? It's so confusing. But doing it this way is completely new to me, and I do consider it a complete and utter game changer. I will never chain again. I will never do a 2 chain start, 3 chain start. Somebody asked me as well, with the US treble crochet, can you do the same thing? And I'm going to show you now that you can. Okay, so if this was a UK term, it would be a double treble. So obviously what you do, bear with me 1 second, I've got knock. Sorry about that, a postman came. So I've frogged it back to where we were because it's confusing to have all those half trebles. So here we are, we're back at our work. We would go in and we would pull up our loop exactly the same, and as if we were just doing it before, and we would go into this side post, and we would do, and so we've completed what we were doing. So if it was a UK double treble or a treble crochet in the US, we've got that post again on the side there to go into and complete. So now we've got our nice tall stitch, and we would do our double trebles, as we call them, or treble in the US, exactly the same as always, by going round the hook twice, pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. But again, you've got your 2 loops there to go in when you get all the way around. It is a very big stitch. I probably did mine a little bit tight there. I'll do that again. There we are. You pull up your loop. It's quite handy to pull. If you're in a situation where you're in a corner, it is quite handy to pull up those loops. But it makes a nice big fatter stitch rather than the spindly kind of turning chains that we all have been doing. I prefer it. So there we are. We would now just keep going. And I never was one to do 3 chain when it came to a UK treble or US double crochet. I always felt, I'm sorry, I'm leaning on my own yarn, which is very annoying. But that is how you would do it for that stitch. So now I think we've covered all of them. All of the stitches, so that is cool. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you understood completely about the granny square. The rest of it was just for, you know, information purposes if you were doing a border or what other stitches I've been asked to show. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye for now. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and for this tutorial I've been asked to do a little tutorial for the granny stitch that's just kind of in a line, you know, like if you're making a big blanket or something and it was just the granny stitch, not a square, although this one is square, with the new stacked starting stitch. So this was my first attempt, and I'm going to show you how I did it. And I'm also trialing these brand new crochet hooks. They've got this walnut wood highly polished handle and this copper coloured top. Now they are the new Knit Pros, which I've just got some for my shop, Hobby Rocks, and they come in a lovely velvet pad, and then that pad is in this case with other goodies. So I'm going to use those because I want to see what they're like. I bought a set for myself, and so I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay, so this is how it ultimately looks. I'm going to put this one aside and just pause it for a second while I get ready to start. In the meantime, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Okay, so as you can see, this one is not too bad, but you can just about see that the bottom kind of pulls in a little bit, because if you're going to do these granny stitches on a just a chain base, then you need it to be made with a slightly larger crochet hook, which I didn't do then. So I've chosen a 5mm because I'm using DK weight yarn, and I'm going to use a 4.5. Now, I'm not used to these hooks, so you have to bear with me. I think they are an inline hook, and I'm not used to these. I'm used to the tulips and others. So for this particular tutorial and this stitch, we need to make a multiple of 2 plus 2. So really, the stitch count you want plus 2. Okay, so I'm going to call that, I'll do the extra 2. I don't know why, because it's just a multiple of 2. So I'm going to lose this hook and put in the next one. Okay, so what we want to do then in the second chain from the hook is do our first stacked stitch. So we're going to insert a hook, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of those. And then we're going to, in this side one here, we're going to slip our hook in, yarn over and pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through 2. Now this takes place of our turning chains, and if you've been watching my channel for a little while now, you'll know that I've done a few videos on this stacked stitch. I did the original one and then was asked to do the granny square, so this is my 3rd one. So now we're going to skip a chain, and in this one here we're going to make 3 UK treble crochets or US double crochets, and that is the start of our granny stitch, because that's the traditional granny stitch. So all in the same chain we've got our 3. Don't worry if it bends. Skip 1, and in the next one we're going to put another 3. It is a bit of a monotonous stitch, I have to say, but one that you can easily do while you watch TV or doing other things. It's a great stitch for just getting on with other stuff, so if you don't have to put too much attention to it. Skip one, in the next we do another 3. So far I'm really liking these hooks, I have to say. This is my second go. I had another little play with them last night and I really like them. Skip one, into the next, and they are so new that you don't find them many places, but they are in my shop, which is hobbyrocks.co.uk, if you want to have a look at them. I did recently do a video showing them and everything that's in the kit. Right, skip one, 3 in the next one. Let's get this out of the way, it's getting a bit curly. Right, I'm going to hold it with my fingers. Now it's long enough. Get it out of the way. Sorry if I bashed the camera. One thing I do like about these hooks is this does seem longer than the hooks that I've been used to. Skip one, 3 in the next. And doing that with an extra, the size up crochet hook at the beginning really does help you have a nice straight bottom. Skip one and then 3 in the next. Okay, now we should be left with 2, which we are. We're going to skip one and just put 1 in this end. Okay, so that's our first row. And as you can see, we've got a nice loose bottom now. It is curling round slightly, but never mind. Now we're going to turn our work. Let's get that tail out of the way because that's going to confuse. And in our first stitch, we're not going to chain at all. We're going to go into that stitch as we did before. And pull up a loop and yarn over and go through both of those, and just in this side one here, just that one loop in, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both. Now what we do is we need our center of our 3 UK trebles or US doubles, so this center one, so you skip that one and we're going to work 3 into that stitch there. If you stick around towards the end of this video, I'll show you just a little variation on this. So again, we look at our 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going for the middle one, and we're going to put 3 in there. Again, look at our 3 and go for the middle one and put 3 in there. So that's what we're going to do until we get to the end. So I'm going to pause the video and I will catch up with you again when I get to this very last stitch. Okay, so here we are, got all the way to the end. Now the beauty of this is that at our end we now have the 2 loops of a stitch that we can go into. We don't have to fight to find a tight little chain at the end, because if you remember, this would have been our 2 chain, and we don't have that anymore. We have this lovely stitch with 2 loops that we can go into. Now we're going to turn our work and it's looking more granny like. Okay, so in our first stitch we're going to do that stack again, and this, if you're in the UK, would be a stack double crochet. If you're in the US, it would be a stack single crochet, because we have different names. So we're going to insert our hook, pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through them both, and just this one on its own here, insert, pull up a loop and go through both of them. And now again we're going to look for our middle and do our 3 in there. Just the same, it's just a 1 row repeat. It's actually lovely, easy stitch to make something with. If you want something you can do while you're spending time with the family, watching TV or whatever, perfect stitch for it. And you don't have to do them as squares. You can make this as wide as you want. You just need your multiple of 2 and 2 for the last stitch, so then you're fine. Okay, So I'm nearly at the end of this, and so then because it is a 1 row repeat and we've gone over the start and we will go over the end one more time, I'll then show you the variation at the end of this row, which isn't far. I've got a couple more to do. Last one. Into the third, middle one, the second one along. Do our 3. Okay, so we're again at the end of the row. This one's a little clearer. You can see there's the first stitch that we stacked, there's our second one, and there's the 2 loops. So we're going to just do a UK treble or US double in that one stitch there, and that completes it. So as you can see, it's starting to look like a granny stitch, and because we used a wider hook or a bigger hook at the beginning, it's not curling round, it's not pulling in too much. It will pull in a little because it is a chain after all, and it won't look identical until you kind of put your border on, and then it will work itself out. So okay, let's do the variation. There are several variations that I've done over the years with this stitch. So in the first stitch we would do our stack just the same as our other rows, exactly the same. Okay, so in our center stitch here, instead of doing our 3, we're going to do a V-stitch. Now you can either do the modern V-stitch, which is just making 2. I'll do the first one as a modern V, the first row, okay, as a modern V, and I'll show you on our second pass of it the traditional V-stitch, and I'll show you what happens, the difference. There are actually 3 variations then. I kind of didn't consider this one when I first said it. So we're going in the middle stitch, just as we did before, but instead of putting 3, we're putting 2. And well, this is actually even quicker to crochet up. So it grows just the same, but it's quicker. So this is the modern V-stitch version. Okay, so we go and find our last stitch. There it is, the nice 2 loops to go into, and make our last stitch. I'm not struggling with this hook or anything. It's just because there's a camera between me and the crochet, and I'm not holding it how I normally would. So now it's looking like this. We'll do our stack in our first stitch, because that is how we start every single row until we come to do the border or something, and we might do a different stitch. So inside this V that we've created, we're going to do 3. Okay, so we're doing our 3 exactly the same, but we're not going in the top of a stitch, we're going in the hole between. Okay, so it's pulled it out into a V. That's the modern V. So we're going to part them 2, and we're going to go into the center of it, and we're going to put 3. And we're going to do that in every pair. Go between them and put 3. And it forces it into a V, but it's not a big wide V. It's a nice little subtle one. Hang on. There we go. See? It's actually a nice little subtle V. In the next one, I will show you the traditional V-stitch. So I'm going to pause it because this is just putting 3 in between each 2. I'll catch up with you when I get back to the end. Okay, I'm at the end. Just got to do the last one in my stack stitch and turn. So that's how that looks. That's the back of these, but the front of that row, I would have it that way round. That's how I like to see it. Okay, so we're going to do our stack in our very first stitch that we've just made. It keeps the edge nice and neat, and also when you come to do the border, it gives you something more substantial to actually crochet a border into. Right, so now this is the traditional V-stitch. We're going to do one in the centre stitch, a chain, and then another one in the centre. And that creates the V before we've even put any stitches into it. This was the traditional way of doing it. One chain, back in the same space for another. Some people prefer this way. Others prefer the other way because it's neater. And I don't think you use as much yarn. And if you're playing yarn chicken at the end of a project, you know, you need all the help you can get. Okay, so nearly there. I might as well stay with you rather than pause it for this because it's nice and quick. One chain in between. Last one. And again, one in the nice top 2 loops of our stack. Okay, so now we're going to turn our work, and as you can see, our V's are more open, they're bigger. So now we do our stack again in the very first stitch we've just created, and now we just put our 3 in the centre of the V. That is one way of doing that. Of course, another way is to put a V in the centre. Or just, if you're doing the modern V-stitch, you can do 3. And in the next one, place a V. Excuse me 1 second, that's my postman, I think. Okay, sorry about the interruption. So with this one, you can either just do V's on V's, you can do 3's on 3's, you can do V, 3 and V, 3 and V. So this is the beauty of it. You can really make this however you want. So this one is my 3. You can do them alternates. You can do the rows alternates. You can just do the same thing all along, whatever you want. You can do lots of different things. You can even change it up in your project and make it a feature. Just change it periodically, you know. So if you like to do 10 rows of one and 10 rows of the other. Okay, there we are, top of our nice little stack. Okay, so now we turn our work and we can do the opposite this time round and do our stack. And now this one we can put a V in there because it is. We can either do that as a modern V or a traditional V-stitch. Doesn't matter. And then we can put 3 into that one. So you can really play with this and play with the variations and just get some really cute projects. So I hope that's been helpful. I was asked to do this showing the stack stitch on just doing a straight granny, but I kind of figured that while I was there, I might as well show you a few other bits and pieces that you can do with it as well. So I hope that's been helpful for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye for now. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do the willow square. Now I know the willow square has been done before, in fact it's been done by me before. I did it when I first started YouTube as a crochet along. But my willow square is different from everybody else's, and I'd improved upon, well I felt like I'd improved upon the original design. And now I've improved upon mine. So I'm going to do this one for you today. The previous one, I did this part as part 1 and then turned it into a square in part 2 so that you could refer to whichever part you wanted if you wanted to brush up on this. But now that we have YouTube giving us timestamps, I don't need to do that. So with this particular yarn that I've used is the new Poundland yarn that I don't know what the colour is. They put the wrong yarn band on it. It was just called white. So as you can see, there's not white. But the previous one I made with the bright pinks, and this is the newer version with the teal and orange. It is very, very pretty. But I'm going to show you how to make this square, and you can either edge it like I have in the white, or you can make another row of just doing, this is a UK treble, which is a US double crochet, and you can do another whole round of those if you want before you edge in white. It really depends on your personal preference, but it's not so hard to do. And if you just bear with me a second, I'll clear all this away and we'll get started. So in the meantime, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Okay, for this tutorial, the yarn I'm going to use is this Elise Batik Baby, and I'm going to be using the green colour as I have it on my Wool Genie already, so that's what I'm going to make this particular square from. So I'm using a 4.5mm crochet hook because this is a DK weight yarn. Let's just move this over a little bit. Okay, so first off you need to make a slip knot. You can do that however you normally do. And I'm going to chain 4. Now in my previous one I chained 5 because we do a lot in this particular ring, but it worked out just fine doing the 4. If for you, when you get to the end of this, if that doesn't work out, you can always do a larger center chain, but 4 is fine. So I'm going to close that with a slip stitch into the first one and make a little ring. Now it does look very small, but once we work into it, it will get larger. Okay, so this is the center of the ring right here. Now I'm going to do a stacked UK double crochet, or a stacked US single crochet by going into that ring, yarning over and pulling up a loop. So I have 2 on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through both of those. Now I'm going to go into this one at the side, just this one here, and I'm going to yarn over and pull up another loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So I've recently done a video. I will no longer do turning chains. That's how I'm going to do this from now on. If you don't like that or you don't want to, you just need to chain 2. But this is so much easier, especially when you get back to the start again. It's brilliant. I'm going to do it all the time. So anyway, so we need a total of 16 UK trebles or US double crochets in this center. So that's my first, and to do that we just into that center ring, and we're going to make another 15, so that will make 16 altogether with our beginning stacked stitch. I won't say which it is because, you know, they're called different things in the US to what they are in the UK, and so I don't want to confuse as too often. So I'm going to pause it anyway while I get these done, and I will catch up with you when I get back to the start again. Okay, so I've got one more to do, and as you can see it's quite bunched together. Now I've had to do this before, but it doesn't matter. Just pull that aside and complete your ring. So now if you get confused at all, just count the V's at the top there. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15, and this one here is 16. So that is my 16. I'm now going to slip stitch into that first stitch. Now because it's not a turning chain, you can see that is so much easier just to slip stitch into and going through the 2 loops instead of fighting to get into a tight chain. So we're going to do that slip stitch there. Okay, so now we're going to do another one of those stacked stitch. So we're going to go back into that same hole that we've just come out, and we're going to pull up a loop, yarn over and go through both of them, And then in this side one here, we're just going to pop that in. It's just the one loop, and we're going to yarn over and pull up and go through both. Now we're going to chain one, and we're going to go and do that. Well, not the stack, obviously. We're going to do a UK treble or US double in the next stitch and one chain, and we're going to do that all the way around. So we're increasing our circle, but we'll still have the same amount of stitches. Just pulling out some yarn. We'll still have the same amount of stitches when we get to the end. So with every single stitch, we're going to do a UK treble, US double, and a chain all the way around until we get back to the start. Nice and simple. Okay, so that's what we're doing. Don't worry if it looks more like it's laying over like a wheel. It will work out. So I'm going to pause it there and do my stitch and my chain in every one around, and I'll catch up with you when I get back to the start again. Okay, so here I am. We've got all the way around. We do our last one chain, and now we're going to slip stitch into the top of our first stitch. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to go back in, pull up our loop and pull through both. Go in that side one, pull up our loop and complete our stitch. Now in every single space, every single one chain space in the hole, we're going to do 2 UK trebles or US double crochets. And then in the post, we're going to do 1. And then 2 in the space. One in the post. And that's our repeat. 1 in the post, 2 in the space. 1 in the post, 2 in the space. So I will pause it again, and I'll catch up with you when we get back to the start again. Okay, here we are. I'm all the way back. So now we're just going to go into the top, both loops, and join that with the slip stitch. So this is where we are now going to, this is thicker yarn obviously, we're now going to turn this into a square. So this whole round may look a little odd. There is a pattern to it. So we're going to chain 4. And then we're going to skip 2 and do a UK double crochet, which is a single crochet in the US there. Then we're going to chain 3. And we're going to skip 2 and do another UK double US single. We're going to chain 3. And we're going to skip 2 and we're going to do another. So now we've got 4 chain, 3 chain, 3 chain. We need 1 more 3 chain. Skip 2. And that's our repeat. 4 chain, 3 chain, 3 chain, 3 chain. So 1 lot of 4, 3 lots of 3. Now we need 4 because we need this one slightly bigger on the next round. So the next one for me is 4. And then skip 2 and our UK double US single in there. Now we do 3, skip 2, and remember we need another 2 lots of 3. Okay. So now I've done 2 lots. These are our corners, these slightly larger ones. So what I want you to do now is to do your 4, 3, 3, 3, 4, 3, 3, 3, and well, I'll catch up with you on that last third one. Okay, here I am. I've done my 3 chain, and I'm now going to join to this first chain with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to slip stitch into my first 4 chain space. So I've joined my ring and I want to slip stitch into here. So And now in that particular, bear with me 1 second, I've got a knock at the door. I'll just be okay. So I've slip stitched into my 4 chain space, and now I'm going to do a stack stitch like we did before. So I'm going to go into there again, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of those. Then in that one side stitch, I'm going to yarn over and pull through, and then pull through both of those. So then I'm going to, this is going to get quite congested, I do warn you. I'm going to do another 4 UK treble crochets or US double crochets. So they're all going to be together there, and there should be 5 altogether with my stacked stitch. I think that's 4. So as you can see, it fills up the space. We're going to chain 2. We're going to pull that over slightly, not too hard because we don't want it to distort, but we're just going to do another 5 in there. So our corner is 5, 2 chain and another 5. Like I say, it does get a little bit congested in there, but it does work. I think that was 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pull it over slightly and put this one in there. Okay, so now in this next 3 chain space, we're going to do a UK double crochet or a US single crochet. Okay, then in this next 3 chain space, we're going to do 7 UK trebles or US double crochets. I'm getting confused with the corner where we do 5. So we're going to do 7. That's 4. I've got 1 more to do. Okay, so I've done 7. So we've got 5, 2 chain, 5, join with a double crochet into there, or single in the US, and then 7. Okay, so just like we did there, we're now going to do our UK double, US single. Now we're going to make another corner. So basically it looks confusing at first, but we're doing corner, side, corner, side. So now we're at the corner, we're going to do 5. It gets easy after a while, once you've repeated it. If I go ahead, just pause me and catch up. So there's my 5, pull it over slightly, 2 chain and another 5 in that same space. This is one of the reasons I didn't do as many chains as on other tutorials you might see, because these stitches make a big enough hole, make a big enough space. We don't really need it to be any wider than it is. So there we are, we've done a whole side, if you like. We've got a corner, a side, a corner. So now we're going to go into that 3 chain space and do our UK double or US single, and now we're doing 7 in this one here. Okay, and just in this next one, our UK double, US single. Now we're back at the corner. So what we're going to do now is in our 4 chain spaces, we're going to do 5, 2 chain, 5, and then we're going to join it with our UK double, US single. Then we're going to do 7. We're going to join it again there. And we're going to do it back to our corner. So we're doing 5, 2 chain and 5. We're going to join it there. And then we're going to do our 7, and then we'll join it there, and I'll come back to you. Okay, so it's looking more square, although it's slightly curved, and the next few rows will sort that out. So now we're going to slip stitch. We've already done our UK double or US single into that last one. We're going to slip stitch into that first stitch to join it. Now we're going to do a stack stitch in there, or you can chain 2. And it's completely up to you. And then I'm going to chain 3. And then in this corner where I did my 2 chain, I'm going to do a UK double crochet or US single, and then 3 chain and another one in the same space. So it makes this little loop in the corner. And then I'm going to chain 5. Am I chaining 5? No, 3. Sorry, I'm chaining 3, and I'm going to do a UK treble or US double crochet in that space there. And then I'm going to, bear with me a second. Sorry, lots of interruptions, do apologise. So I'm going to do 2 chain, and then in the middle of my 7, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to do a UK double or a US single. So that has bridged that little gap. I'm going to do 2 chain, and then I'm going to do a UK treble or a US double in that where we have made that US single before, you know, or UK double. So it does look like it's pulling and cupping up. I want it to do that. It's not a mistake. 1, 2, 3 chain, and then we're going to go into our corner and do the same as we did on the previous. So it's 1 UK double US single, 3 chain, and then another one. Okay, so there is a repeat here. When we're going towards a corner and away from a corner, we have 3 chain. And when we're going towards our 7 and away from our 7, we have 2. So this is away from our corner, so we've got 3 chain. And now, because we have this dip down, we're going to do the UK treble, US double in that space to bring it up. 2 chain, and in the top of our 7, which is the middle one is there, we're going to do a UK double or a US single, because we don't need to bring that stitch up. And we're going to do, as it's going away from the 7 stitches, we're doing 2. And then in this dip, we're going to do our UK treble, US double to bring it up again. But as you can see, it is cupping badly, but don't worry about that. Just like before, where I said we didn't need all these holes because all of these stitches make them bigger, that's what's going to happen on the next round. So don't worry about that. So we're approaching the corner, so we're doing 3 chain, and then we're going to do our little corner with our 3 chain back in the same for that one. We're going away from the corner, so again it's 3 chain, and because we've dipped down, we're doing a UK treble, US double. So I'm sure you can see the pattern emerging. We've got 2 chain now because we're coming to the 7, and in the center one we're doing our join. 2 chain again because we're leaving that 7, and we're going to do our stitch UK treble, US double in that stitch there. And again we've got 3 chain because we're coming up to the corner. I'm going to make our corner. If I race ahead, as I said before, just pause me. Okay, where's our start? There. It is sometimes very easy to just carry on. When you get to this point, it looks a bit confusing. So don't worry, I do it too. It's not, you know, it's quite easy because we're making a framework on this round. Okay, so in the center one there. And we're back at the start. So now we're just going to slip stitch into our first stitch. Okay, that looks messy, and I think you'd agree that does look bad, doesn't it? So this next round is what counts. This is how we pull all that together. Okay, so now we're on this round. We've made our holes ready for this. So our corners become normal looking corners, and then this is our side. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we're going to slip stitch into this big chain space, and we're going to do our first stack stitch. If you want, you can do your 2 chain, but I prefer to do these because you get a thicker stitch. Now we want 5, so I'm going to do 4 UK treble, US doubles in that same space, because our first stack counts as our first stitch, and I think that's my 5. Let me count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we're at the corner. We're going to do 3 and this is the only square that I ever do this for. 2 chain and another 3 in that same space for our corner. Normally I just do 1 chain there, but this one is quite holy sort of thing. Okay, so now we're on this side again. We're going to do, as we did 5 on the run up to our corner, we're going to put 5 in that 3 chain space. Okay, so now we're at the corner, the side where we have the 2 chain spaces, and in each of those we're putting 3. I'm not really carrying my yarn with me very well here, am I? There we go. And in the next one, 3. Okay, as you can see, that is pulling that out nicely. No more cupping. So on the run up to our corner in our 3 chain space, we're going to put 5. So that is our repeat. 5 on the run up to the corner, and then the corner itself is 3. Separated by 2 chain and another 3. It's because this angle is strange for me. That's why I there we are. We've completed a whole side. So now you can see no more cupping, no more unsightly kind of curling up. It's all fine. Let me move that out of the way. Okay, so now we've done our corner. We're in the side part again. So this first bit, where we're leaving the corner, is bigger, so we're doing 5 in there. Because this is unusual, I'm sticking with you, not pausing it. So in these 2 here, we are doing 3. In each one. So as you can see, it's a nice corner. And now we're back, we're doing 5. And we're back at the corner again. Whoops. The camera's in the way. Okay, so now we're doing the corner again. So that's 3, 2 chain and 3. It's very difficult. Let me pull some yarn. I've got a yarn genie, but it's getting caught under my finger. And then again 5 in this one because we're coming away from the corner. and then in the next 2, 3. So I'm sure you can see it's still cupping a little bit, but that's because we haven't had chance to pull it flat, and it does flatten out very nicely. So we're doing 3 in these 2 holes, 3 in each. I have to say, I love this yarn. Since I've been using this yarn for my tutorials, it's really grown on me. Okay, so now we're approaching the corner, we're back to 5. And that's, as you can see, it does pull it out, which is why I don't like to do way too many chains in between, because it just makes big holes that are not necessary. And the more you go round, the more it'll pull it flat. Just doing my corner. Okay, so we haven't got far to go before we're back at the start. So I'm doing 5 in my next one. And in the next 2, 3. And my last space. And we're back at the start again, and we just get to the top of our stitch and we'll join with a slip stitch. Now, this is where you have a bit of a choice to make, because we've made our willow square. Let's pull that out a little bit, and it just needs teasing into the corners, and there we can see it's lovely and flat. You've got a nice square. It still has a little bit of a curve here and there, so you can either do another round of UK treble US double crochets, but I decided that's big enough for me and I was going to do an edging. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. Now, because I'm changing colour, just more recently I've given up changing colour and just end off one and start another. And plus I can now put my yarn into the corner, which is what I like the most. So my, oh, sorry if I'm getting further away, my edging is just a ball of white. I can't put that on my yarn genie, unfortunately. Bear with me a second. I just need to get my little helper that keeps the yarn away from me. Hold on a moment. Okay, I'll show you my really technical piece of equipment. Here it is. It's a trinket box that's a cat. It looks just like my old cat. And I use this tail to loop my yarn around, and it keeps the yarn from coming back at me. So yeah, really technical piece of equipment there. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to join at a corner. I always prefer my joins at a corner really, but with that one, and I'm just going to tie it because, you know, I'm at the corner, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my loop and make a chain, cinch it right down so it's nice and secure. Now I'm going to do a whole round with a UK half treble, which is a half double crochet in the US. Now obviously you can do UK trebles, US double crochet, you can do whatever you want, but I prefer my edge to the square to be shorter, so that's what I've done. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, just going to start, I've done my little chain and I've cinched it down, and I'm going to do 2 in this corner. And the reason I'm doing 2 is because I am making that a seamless corner. So now I'm just going to do 1 in every single stitch until I get to the corner. If you did the UK treble US double crochet, then that gives you another round really to pull it into a square. But I find that it really is square enough, and once you start joining them, if you're making a blanket or a cushion or whatever you're making, it really does kind of pull it out nicely anyway. So there's really, I've worked over that tail. I always loop the last bit in. Does help. Okay, so we're just going to go all the way to the corner. I'm going to go as fast as I can with the camera between us. If I do a race ahead, then by all means just pause me and catch up. But it's simple, just one in each stitch along. Nearly there. Okay, so this is the last one, and then we're at the corner, and I've got to pull some yarn out. Bear with me a moment. Okay, so that should be enough. Okay, so in the corner, we're just going to do 3 in that space. And if you were doing the UK treble or US double crochet, you would just do 3 in that corner. Exactly the same. But obviously, if you were, then you would need to do a proper stack stitch at the beginning or your chain 2, whichever you'd prefer. But since I've learnt to do this stack stitch, then that's it for me. Now I will always, where I can, do that stitch at the beginning and on my squares. Okay, so a little pause, and just to show you what that looks like. It really does finish it off nicely. Now what I like about this is that when you do your join, obviously you're joining another square to another square, so it will be taller. That's why I like to do the white round as a half treble or half double US, because you're getting that double thickness, and it does. If you did the UK treble or US double, then you've got even more space between that is that colour. So I like to do just this stitch around the outside. So now I'm coming up to my join, and I'm going to work over that tail as well. Sometimes I'll give you a little tip. What I like to do is, it's not so easy with this because this side is less colourful than that, so I'll undo with it and I'll show you exactly how I do I turn it round and I go through and pull that yarn through there, come back, and I pull this through here. It's only because the colour that I'm doing is different to what's underneath. This is how I hide my tail on this particular kind of square. I've got lots of little techniques that I use to bury tails and hide them, depending on what I'm making. But I'm just going through, and there we go. So then on the last one, go back on myself just to secure it. Can't find the end, it's getting smaller, and then I turn. I'll pull that one out because it almost was. And now I will go over it, and that will not budge. I'll basically do so many things to prevent me from having to sew ends in. That's what it is. I hate sewing in ends. So I've developed lots and lots of little fiddly techniques over the years to get rid of them. Now, I did do a video some time ago about how I get rid of my ends on a lot of things, and then I found other people doing those videos, which is quite funny really. There we go. So now that is completely gone, never to be seen again. Okay, so we just carry on all the way around to the corner, and then when we get to the corner, I'll just refresh your memory as to what we're doing then. Here we are. So I'm going to do 3 in that corner just to turn the corner. And off we go again along the side. So I'm going to pause it, go all the way around with my UK half trebles and my US half doubles, and I'll catch up with you when we get back to here. Okay, so I'm almost back. Now I'm going to show you how to end off that corner, and also let you know that when I made this blanket I made a ridge join, and what I'll do is at the end of this video I've got several joins that you can choose from when you're joining your squares, from an invisible join, which nobody did before but now everybody seems to be making that video, but I will put a link to that join, the ridge join, and any others that I can find that might look really nice with this particular square. But I absolutely love this square. So here we go. I'm going to show you how we end off then. So I've got one more to go into there. Now what I did was half a corner, and I'm going to finish that by doing my third in that space and then slip stitch in into the very first stitch. Okay, now that brings the yarn right to the center of the corner. So if I was joining and I wanted to sew it, make my invisible join, or even crochet it, I could make a really long tail, and that yarn would be already in that corner for me. But I'm just going to end off this particular one because I'm not really making a blanket with it. Or what I might do is make lots of different ones and just make a multicolored blanket. But there you go, that is the new improved Willow square. And the only thing I don't like using yarn like this is when you get the row kind of fades and then you've got to start again and you get this little but that's just the yarn. That you can manipulate the yarn, I guess, but it is lovely. I really like this yarn. Anyway, you can use any yarn, you can use any size as well. This is a DK weight, but you can use Aran or a chunky, whatever you choose. Make sure you just use the right crochet hook and up your size of crochet hook. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and I'm going to do a little tutorial now for a question that I was asked a little while ago from one of my subscribers. I recently did the stack kind of stitch, and so no longer using the turning chain. Once I did that video, I got lots of questions, so I did several others showing how it works with granny square and other stitches. But I was asked, how does this work out when you're doing the moss stitch? Sorry, I nearly forgot the name of the stitch that I'm going to show you. So I'm not sure if I do my moss stitch exactly the same as other people, because I've seen various different ways. But I'm going to show you how I do my moss stitch and how it works out with not doing a chain at the beginning of the end of rows, so that it works nicely in conjunction with the stack. Now I just call it the stack stitch because in the US it's called the single stack stitch, and in the UK it would be the double. So I just call it the stack, so that way we know what we're talking about. So I'm going to put my yarn on my Wool Genie, but first I'm going to show you it's the Starcraft Chromatic double knitting yarn, and I've chosen this one because hopefully it will show nice definition with the moss stitch. So bear with me while I get set up, and while I'm doing that, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And incidentally, I'll put links to the other videos in the series of this stack stitch at the end of this video. Also, if I can remember, I will put a link for those videos in the description box, along with a link to my shop where you can get that yarn and my other channels. So just a little bit of a note then, the recommended hook would be a 4mm. Now I have used a 4.5. I'm going to do a swatch video of these yarns very soon, so watch out for that and you'll see the difference. The colour of this one is called Whispering Willow. It is a wool and premium acrylic combination. But I'm a bit allergic to wool, but if it's anything under say 25% and you can't feel that wool content, i.e. scratchiness, it's fine. And so that's exactly what this is. So I'm going to use as well a 4mm crochet hook this time around. This is a Clover and More, but the reason I'm using this is because of the colour. It will show the yarn quite nicely against it. Okay, so I always make an odd number of chain. Let me just go down a little bit. There we are. So you just crochet any odd number that you want for your project. So I'm going to pause the video because I need to count, and that is very off-putting if you're doing the same. So I'll come back to you once I've got my chain. Okay, so I have 25. That's an odd number of chain, and I'm going to, in the second chain from the hook, I'm just going to do a UK double crochet, which of course is a single crochet in the US. And for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just going to do one in every single stitch all the way along, just because then it will show a nice even base to start with. I mean, obviously you don't have to do that. You can go straight in with the stitch and it will be exactly the same, except you'll just go into chains rather than these UK doubles or US single crochets. So again, as it will be boring just watching me go all the way to the end, I'll pause the video and I'll come back to you once I have my my foundation row. Okay, so I've done one stitch in every single one. Like I said, you can just go straight in to the actual stitch, but I find it cleaner to do this. So in my very first stitch, which is the one that this is coming out of, I'm not going to chain. Incidentally, it depends on the yarn, but if I ever do a chain to get up, I will just do one and I'll pull it right low so you can't see it. So that's the only time that I ever would do a chain. But for this one, I'm going to show you what it's like if we don't do that chain. It just depends. Some yarn is very silky soft and goes in on itself. Do you know what I mean? It just moves in. And so that stitch becomes very tight. So that's the only way I would do that. So in my very first stitch, I'm going to do one UK double crochet. Now I don't want this loop on my hook to be super tight. It's got to be nice and free. I'm going to chain one and skip one and go into the next stitch, just as if I were doing any other moss stitch. If this is your first time with moss stitch, then we chain one, skip one, and then we go into the next and do our UK double or US single. And we're going to repeat that all the way along by doing one chain and skipping one and going into the next one, all the way to the end of this row. Nice and easy. Now this stitch does pull inward. I've done it quite a few times in swatch videos where I've put it into the middle of a kind of a line of stitching, and it has the effect of pulling it in. So it may make my foundation row kind of look a little baggier, but I still think it's nicer to show you on this. Okay, so I've now got to the end, skip one, and I'll go into this stitch here, and then I'll have an extra one, okay? But I'll do another stitch in that last stitch, okay? Now turn my work. And we've done our first row of moss stitch. So in this very first stitch where the yarn comes out, I'm going to do my stitch. I'm going to chain one and I'm going to leapfrog over that second stitch, go into this gap. And then I'm going to chain one and I'm going to skip the stitch and go into the gap, my one chain space. And that's what I'm going to do all the way along. So I'm still skipping one and going into the next stitch, but I'm going into the chain space, not into the stitch. What I mean is I'm not going into the top of my chain, I'm going into the space. All the way to the end. Sorry, we have a lorry going by. with DIY supplies, and for once they're not my partner's. Incidentally, I'm expecting a parcel, so it may turn up during this tutorial. If so, I'll just pause it and come straight back. Just to be aware if that happens. Okay, so I'm nearly at the end. I'm going to do my space, and so I'm going into the last of my chain spaces, and again I have that last stitch left. Now the beauty of not doing a chain, you have your V here and you can see the last stitch nice and easy, just the same as with the stacking any other stitch that we do. Okay, so again I'm going to go into that first, take my hook with me. We're going to go into that very first one. We don't want a tight stitch, but we don't want it super baggy. I'm going to chain one, and then I'm going to go over this one and straight into the chain space. So it's a very easy stitch. But I know that some people don't do that double stitch at the end of the row. They do it with a chain, which, you know, I'm not doing a chain. I think my yarn is a bit snagged up. Hang on a sec. It went round on itself on my wool genie. Okay, so I'm just going to do the same thing all the way to the end. And if you find it hard to see it, because it is a small stitch, you can feel where your chain space is, where your stitch is, and where your chain space is. Okay, nearly at the end. Again, we have our last few stitches. I'm going to chain one, go into my last chain space. I'm not sure what that was. Sounded like a gunshot. Okay, so then I have one stitch left here, and I'm going to go in there. It's nice and simple to see your last stitch. That's what I love about the stack stitch of any kind. You can see the V. Not so easy with this yarn, I admit, but there it is. You can see the V, and you can get in and find that last stitch to keep your edges super straight. So yeah, we're actually doing our stitch now. So again, we're going to go into that first one without a chain, unless, you know, your yarn that you're using does kind of shrink back. Then do that chain as I showed you and scooch it right down. I'm going to do my chain. I'm going to find my first space and start my moss stitch. Just the same as before. And I do find, you know, it is hard to see if you're a beginner, but it starts to take shape, and you can manipulate it and find your stitches, no problem at all. So it is a simple but really effective stitch. I love this stitch. Every yarn that I've ever used to make this stitch is just enhanced by it. And, you know, it is beautiful. Obviously, it's just a small stitch, so therefore it doesn't grow as quick. So we're going to go into our last one. Easy to find your V. I've gone into extra than my V. There we are. Do our last one. And as you can see, I think we've done a few rows now. That makes a lovely straight edge by both sides. Okay, we'll do a few more rows. If you feel confident and everything else, you can drop out at this stage. But I'm going to do a few more rows. And you can stick with me if you're, you know, not feeling quite so confident, or you just want to... I think my yarn is snagged up again. It's because my genie spins. And if you don't put the this part, the spindle, through the dead centre, sometimes it does not run as freely. Little lesson learned. Okay, so we're just going to go all the way along. And we'll see a few more rows just to see how it works out. Nearly there. Okay, so there's our last space. And no more chain, just straight into that last stitch. And then we turn and we do it all over again. Okay, so this time I will pause it and meet up with you when we get to the end. But the trick is that this stitch needs to be the same sort of tension as the rest of your stitches and not tight. So if you find that you make it too tight, I will show you how it looks. You might have just disappeared on me as I said I'm going to pause it. But I'll show you how it looks. It doesn't look any different if we do that chain and we scooch it right down so it's very more or less non-existent. And all that will do is give you this little line here. We'll do a couple by making that chain and you can see the difference. There shouldn't really be a great deal of difference. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then and I'll catch up with you when I get to the end of this row. Okay, so I'm at the end of the row. I'm just going to do my last one. Okay, so now I'm going to do my chain, but I'm going to scooch it, or as I say, cinch it right down so that it's more or less non-existent, and do my first stitch. So this end of this row will show you what it looks like when you do that chain, because we did it at the end of the previous. Okay, so let's just, it's very small, so I won't bother pausing it. We'll just get straight there. And if I go too fast for you, you can always pause it and catch up with me. But I think we know what we're doing with this stitch now. Okay, so we're there. Into my last chain space. Okay, so then you just go into your top stitch there. You can see there are the 2 loops. Now, if this little bump here does confuse you, you know what to do, omit it. Okay, so I'm going to do one more row. I'm not, okay, I will, as I said I would. I'll do my chain. You don't need it with this yarn. And most yarns, I find, you don't need it. Because you will get this little extra bump. And it does affect a little bit your straight edge. But we'll show you exactly how much, or I will, not we. There's only one of me, thank goodness. I don't think people who know me in the world could cope if there were 2. Okay, so let's get to the end of this one and we'll have a look. I need to pull my yarn again, but my yarn genie just wants to, wool genie, I always call it yarn genie, it's a wool genie, wants to spin like the clappers when I pull it. Okay, so we're here again. There's the stitch at the top there, just the same. Makes it a little trickier to get your hook in, or it might just be the hook. I'm not used to these hooks. I use tulips. Okay, let's have a look. Has it made a great deal of difference to the edge? It's made a tiny bit. Well, actually, it hasn't, has it? Because you can see you've still got that little kind of bump. I don't think it's made any difference at all. Looking at this one, it would have just been here. And you can see there's a little, I suppose it's a tad bigger, but it's kind of doable, I think. But you see what I mean? This stitch does kind of pull in. Would make a great waistband if you're making a skirt and you wanted to taper, then switch to this stitch rather than decreasing. It's just a little tip, because this will kind of give you a lovely waistband without ribbing. Okay, so that's how I do my moss stitch. And it's also how I make my moss stitch. I mean, I've always done it the same way, but now that I do the stack stitch and I don't do any turning chains, that is how I do it. So I just wanted to show you with that little chain, if we did have to do it. It's only kind of really silky soft yarns that slip and slide that I would use that. But everything, and I don't always. anyway. You know, it's only if it absolutely is necessary. Otherwise, I'll just go straight into the stitch itself. I don't bother with any kind of turning chain now in any way at all. So I've done so far every single stitch that is imaginable, videos, and I will just say link those in the description box below. And get on, I'll show you what they're like. Now I'm going to carry on with this for a little while because I'm making a swatch video, and so I want to show how this yarn works up. So I'm going to carry on with my swatch, but I feel like that's enough for this tutorial. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope it helps, especially the person who did ask me. I think his name is Gary. So hopefully, Gary, that has helped you. Thank you for watching, everybody. And if you haven't already, as I said, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. Tracy here, and this is a tutorial which is really kind of just a recap of the stack stitch and the ways that we can use that with all of the stitches. So I'm going to be making them with you. I wanted to show this because I keep having people ask me questions about how you would do it with this stitch, how you do another stitch. So I figured I'd make a video showing all of them. Now I just need to take this bracelet off. Excuse me, it's dangling, so it's going to clank on there and it will annoy everybody. So I'm just taking that off. Okay, so we're going to make a chain. It doesn't matter because we're not making anything. So we can just do a chain of any amount. It's really immaterial, to be honest with you. But we don't want it massive, I guess. So while I'm just doing that, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. That was a baggy one. And the notification bell. And you never know, hopefully you might get a notification come your way. Right then, so let's have a look. How wide is that? A couple more. Okay, so there are lots of different ways of doing this, but we still need to go in the second chain from the hook and start our work. I don't think you can't really go into this one no matter what, so that is no change. So we're going to start with the UK double crochet, which is a single crochet in the US. So we're just going to do one in every single stitch along for now, and I'm going to pause this because that will be boring watching me do this. But I think it's important to start from the beginning and show every stitch as it happens. So I'm just going to pause it and I'll catch up with you once I've completed that. Okay, so there we are. I've got one in every single stitch all the way along. So I'm going to turn my work no chain. Now I have two ways that I handle this particular stitch. Now if I'm using a thin yarn, this is a DK weight yarn, and sometimes they're quite thin, I'll chain one and I'll cinch it right down, which allows me to carry on my next stitch, and this is complete freedom. It's not going to change the size of anything, but I make sure that I've got a nice big loop. You can see just some daylight through there, just a little bit, not massively baggy, and then I'll go straight into that first stitch and make my stitch, my UK double US single. So that's one way that I do this stitch, and I'm going to go all the way to the end, and I'll catch up with you. I'm going to pause it and I'll catch up with you just as I get to the end. Okay, so here I am at the end. There's our last stitch. I'm going into the two loops, and now that's what that looks like. So the end is perfectly okay. When we get to the end of this, it will be the stack. Well, it's not really a stack on this stage, is it? But that's how we will go into this stitch, and that chain that's cinched down would be nice and small. Okay, so the other way is just to make sure you've got a nice big loop again, not overly baggy, and then you just go straight in and you make a nice loose stitch, and then you go all the way to the end. I don't know, either way is good, but I just feel that sometimes when it's thinner yarn, when it's thicker yarn, I wouldn't do it. Like I just made a chenille baby blanket and have done the tutorial for it, and I wouldn't do it with that yarn. It's just too bulky. But a very thin stitch, you can cinch down, very thin yarn, sorry, you can cinch it right down, and it's barely even noticeable, but it just stops that yarn from travelling back to the previous stitch. So we're getting to the end, and this is the first row of us getting to that nice nice stitch. Okay, so we're nearly there, and we've got our 2 loops to go into, and it's still nice and straight. That cinched down stitch doesn't show. The other side, you can see it does pull slightly down, which is what worries me about doing a big body of work, whether it will sort of dip down, which is why I did that one cinch down chain. You can see it makes less of a drop down. Okay, so that is the UK double crochet, US single crochet. Now we'll tackle what we call in the UK a half treble, but you call in the US a half double, and I can do exactly the same thing. Cinch it right down as it's almost gone, and make sure that that loop is not tight, and make my first stitch in that very first stitch. That is how I've always done it. I don't like confusing chains at the end, getting in there and pretending that they're a stitch you might need to go into. So okay, be boring watching me make all those half trebles, half doubles, so I'm going to pause it. I'll catch up with you when I get to the very end. Okay, I'm at my last stitch, and again I've got those lovely 2 loops to go into, and I can make my last stitch. Okay, so the other way, just as before, is to make a larger loop and then just do your first UK half treble, US half double. But can you see that? I don't like that. That's clumsy. And if you make it so that it's a little tighter, then you might just get that pulling down again. We'll see when we get to the end. You can see it's already shorter, but I don't like that stray bit of loop. That's why I make that one chain and I cinch it down. Again, the only one I won't do that with is ultra thick sort of chenille yarn, or really super chunkies and that sort of thing. You can see it's pulling downward, and on the next row we will kind of pull it up. But let's have a look. Oh no, we'll wait till we get to the end. That would be a more true representation. But this is how I've always done it, with just a one chain cinched right down. If you've seen any of my tutorials over the time, you'll know that I've done that as well, always have. So nearly there, might as well stay with you. Okay, so here's my last stitch. You can see there you've got the 2 loops to go in. So let's see what has happened. Okay, so this side is where we've done that drop down, and this side we have just done our 1 cinch chain. And as you can see, they do pull. It's almost like you're decreasing. I know these stitches are smaller, so you will get a little bit of that, but I don't like the fact that it looks like it's dropping down. Okay, hang on. My yarn genie spun uncontrollably then. Okay, so we'll get on to the traditional UK treble, which is a double crochet in the US. And you've seen that one. We just insert our hook into the stitch, pull up our loop, yarn over, pull through both of them, and in this side one only, insert, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of them. So we've made that stitch. It's nice, it's substantial, it's easy to pull up stitches along this edge when you're making a border. You can see those individual stitches, and it's nice to actually work into that side. It stands thicker, and when you get to the end, of course, you've got the 2 loops to go into. You're not struggling to put your hook in a tight chain that's got all kind of tightened off and annoying. Okay, so it's boring watching me do UK trebles, US doubles, one after the other. I'll pause it and I'll catch up with you when I get to the end. Okay, so doing it that other way has made it very, just doing and going straight in has made that very tight there at the end. So I prefer the other way, but I will show you another way of doing this. So what some people like to do is one chain there and then just start a UK treble, US double crochet. And that's how they would maybe start their row. And it does give you the same stitch, but you get this, it's not quite normal. It's not how I like it. I prefer not doing that chain. But if it works, that's what you like, and it works for you, that's great. But that's just like making a standing kind of stitch. So again, you do a UK double or a US single, and then in this one loop at the side, we make another one. And then we go all the way to the end. So we're going to do one more row because we've done 2 of each. And then we'll tackle the next stitch. Okay, be a bit boring watching me. So you know what's coming. I'll pause this and I'll meet you at the end of the row. Hello, I'm back. Okay, so now we're going to do what in the UK is called a double treble. And if you're in the US, it's called a treble crochet. So we insert exactly the same and we pull up our 2 loops and we go through both of those. And then just the same as before, we insert into this one side stitch and we do another. And then we insert into this side stitch and we do another. So we're now ready for our double treble or US treble crochet. So you pull through 2, through 2, through 2. So just as my old rule with turning chains, you do as many chains as the times you pull through, pull through, pull through. So for the UK treble, I would have done 2. For this, I would have done 3. So you do your stack in 3 stages. So instead of just doing doing it twice, you do it 3 times. That's exactly the same. Okay, then we've got our very tall double treble or treble crochet US. So I'm going to pause it then and I will catch up with you once I've reached the end of the row. Okay, so here we are, and just as before, the beauty of it is you've got your 2 loops at the top to put your last stitch into. No fighting to get through chains. So there we go. And we'll do that one more time. On this double treble or US treble, we insert, we pull up our first loop and we go through both of them. We go into this side one, we yarn over and pull through, and we both go through both of them, and then we do the same thing in that last stitch, and then we go into the next one and do our very long stitch. So that is how we kind of, well, I work it out with all of the stitches. So rather on the very small stitches, rather than just doing straight into it like which, I mean, there are some times when I have done that, like I said, with very chunky yarn, I will do that one chain and cinch it down because it just kind of exits that row and stops the yarn feeding back into the previous stitch, making anything tighter. And I've always done that with those because they're very short stitches. Anyway, that is how I've done it. I'm going to carry on to the end of the row, so I will pause it for a moment and come back to you. Okay, so here I am right at the end, got my 2 loops that I can easily get into for my last stitch. Now this will also work with the linked double crochet, linked treble. And if you're not familiar with that, I will show you it now. So you make your first one exactly the same. And remember, we're only doing this twice. Now for a link, you will go into this bar here, pull up a loop and pull through it, and then you'll go into this next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we want to go into this horizontal bar and pull up a loop, and then we'll go into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to go into this horizontal bar that you can see going across your stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, into the next one, yarn over, pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. There's the horizontal bar, back in and pull up the loop, into the next stitch, pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. So as you can see, this is the linked double crochet US, linked treble crochet UK. And what this does is, if you haven't seen it before, it makes stitches without gaps between. So if I show you, do a few more and then we'll have a look at it. Make a little bit more. Oh, I didn't do that, did I? I didn't pull it through. That is the danger, that you might forget that step. Okay, so I'll pull my loop up. Now if you look, there are no gaps. This is the equivalent stitch down here, and these are the double trebles or treble crochet US. These are the ones we're talking about, and you can see just how open they are. It's stretchy both ways. With this one, there is still a little stretch, but nowhere near as much. So if you wanted a project where it was more closed and you don't have all those gaps, maybe making a baby blanket, the only thing is, as if I carry on and show you, so remember it's this horizontal, but it's kind of diagonal while we're looking at it, but we go into that, yarn over, pull through, into the next one, yarn over, pull through, and then we treat the 3 loops like we would a normal UK treble US double crochet. Did I go through that? I did. When I'm talking, I'm not particularly concentrating on what I'm doing because, you know, talking at the same time. Okay. It is, I think, a nice stitch. It doesn't suit all yarns. It doesn't suit all sizes. As you can see, it curls a little bit. That's because there's no gaps. It is tighter and less elastic. I think as we go on, that will work itself out row after row. But if you did this stitch for a project and you were following a pattern and it told you that the dimensions would be, say, 10 inches by 10 inches, you might find this would be 10 inches by 9 inches because they pull closer together, obviously, because there are no gaps. Okay, so we're nearly at the end. We've got the last one there to pull through, and then we can go in our last stitch here and make our last one. So if I pull it up, it should be a lot narrower. It doesn't look massively narrower, does it? But it is. If I were to make a swatch of that and a swatch showing you this just normal UK trebles US double crochets, not this bit here obviously, but they would be smaller. So if we go, perhaps put that next to each other, it's not massive. It's not a massive difference, but you can see it is a little wider. It does pull it closer. But I like the way that that looks. It does actually look like that you've done maybe US single crochets or UK doubles. Let's have a look at the back of it. That's what it looks like. And obviously changing the row, the next row will be like this. Should we do one? Should we have a look? I think we need to, don't we? Okay, so we'll do our first one as normal, as we have been, and then we're going to go into this side one. We don't have an horizontally diagonally bar. It has to be that one, and there we go. So now we go into this one and pull up our loop, and into this one, and then it might help to hold it this way. if you can't really see it. But I find it easy to see. But, you know, did I not go through there? I don't think I did I? It's because I'm talking. I should be able to multitask being female. What's going on? Okay, so that's it. That's how we do it. If you feel the need, you can turn it. But see, I'm talking again. I don't need to do that. I'm going to pause it then, because it'd be a bit boring watching me do this all the way along. And I will catch up with you when I get to the end, and we'll have a little look and see what both rows look like together. Okay, so here we are. I've got 2 rows of that now, and you can see no daylight at all through it. And that's what they look like on top of each other. So I quite like it, but I think I need to see what quite a large area looks like rather than just 2 rows. So I'm going to pause it and do a few more rows, and then we'll come back and have a look at that and see what you think and see how the edge works out. Okay, so here we are. I've done a few rows. As a stitch, going back and forth, I quite like it. But starting with the stack, it does cause, I don't know if it was me at the beginning being a little bit baggy in my stitch, which probably is true. But as you can see, you get these kind of holes that appear. Now, I don't really like that. So I'm going to see what that particular stitch looks like doing a few rows where we just do chain start. Okay, just to see if it does actually look better. So which do you go into when it's a chain? Maybe it's because I was going in the top part. Oh, am I going in the wrong bit there? Yeah, it would be here, wouldn't it? Okay, again, there's a hole, I can see it. So perhaps that's just the beginning of how it always looks. Maybe, I don't know. Let's try it going in the top one. No, you can't. Well, there you go. So I've not done this stitch before, but I just thought I'd have a little play to see how it goes. I like it. I like this part, not necessarily how it looks at the start. So that would need a little bit of working on, but that is how the stack stitch performs with every single stitch. And it is totally your preference as to whether you go straight in with the actual stitch or whether you do that little chain and cinch it down like I do. I just prefer that, but you know, it's just a way of just work on it and see which works best for you. I just feel that it cements the end of that row and allows that first loop to stay at its normal size rather than retreating back into the previous stitch and becoming tight. I'm not keen on this edge of the stack, but then that's new to me anyway, so I would have to play with that some to get that to how I like it, but not really keen on this edge. As I say, it might be me being a bit baggy at first. I like the way it looks though. I've not actually played with that stitch before. But there you go. Thank you for watching. I hope that's answered all of the questions that I've been asked on every single stitch. I do have one that shows how it works on a granny. And at the end of that, I did touch on a few stitches. The only one I haven't tackled so far is working in the round. But I might do a new solid circle video, which is more of a hidden join a bit later on. So thanks for watching. Like I said before, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and hopefully you'll be informed when new videos pop up. Bye for now.